I went on a date with imposter syndrome, basically.
On a date with
That was my first experience with it.
Was it a flop date?
Definitely. Do not recommend.
Not a second date.
But it creeps in. It's a stalker. This imposter syndrome is a stalker, I have to say.
Welcome back, everyone, to another Friday coffee chat. We're sitting here cozying up with tea, and we're gonna talk. I'm actually very excited about today's talk.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit more about our own journey.
It's gonna be a very personal one.
It's gonna be a very personal one, but also about a topic that we like to talk about, and we still love listening to advice from others about this topic.
Yeah.
Because it will be about confidence and
I'm
confidence.
wearing red.
Red for confidence.
Red for confidence.
You know what? I used to have a colleague, and this actually reminds me of something. I used to have a colleague, and so, she came in one day and she was wearing a black shirt and a red blazer on top, and like she would have a client meeting, and one of our other colleagues was like, "Oh, red, like you're ready for a fight." She's like, "Yeah, I'm ready for a fight, and then in case I need to, someone, I'm ready for the funeral too." Because she can just take off the red blazer and she's wearing black underneath.
That is wild.
Yeah. She was unhinged. Loved her. But
Nice confidence, though.
That is confidence. Well, I'm not sure this is confidence. We will get into it.
We'll get into it,
This is what we're going to be talking about. Not red blazers and black, shirts.
Symbols.
But our confidence journey.
Yeah. Well, we actually wanted to start this episode just by kind of taking a step back and thinking, okay, but where does confidence come from? And I think we've talked about this in one of the previous episodes as well, that actually we are born super confident. Like, as children, we didn't give any Fs about, what other people will think of us, whether, we are liked or not liked. We just did our thing and we were just in it. And that confidence kind of faded away with life and with, growing up, especially like the teenage years. Those are like the low confidence years. And it just kind of, gets you thinking, okay, so if confidence is a journey, how can I make this journey better for me, And I feel like just in general, like, with a community and everything, like we see that you guys like the confidence topics a lot. And that just got us thinking, okay, actually, we were not confident before, or not as confident before. Because actually, like, social media made us get into that journey a bit more intensely and actually ask ourselves questions that we wouldn't otherwise ask ourselves. So like content creation, putting yourself out there, having to, bear, let's say, judgment from other people, so people that you know or people that you don't know. And that all prompted a lot of questions that we would love to discuss today.
I feel like it really accelerated our confidence journey.
It did.
I would say.
It did, definitely. And like we asked ourselves certain questions that helped us, get that confidence a bit faster in that sense. And maybe this episode, will help you also reflect on the questions that you can ask yourself when it comes to your confidence. And also maybe see that you're not alone, because everybody experiences, low confidence days. But that doesn't mean you're not a confident person. Confidence is a journey. So how can you make that journey yours? And how can you make sure that you're in tune with yourself and in tune with your inner power and your confidence? So let's start with...
Let's
dive right into it.
Go grab a tea and get cozy.
Get cozy, yeah. I think this is going to be an episode that we actually haven't really... Like, with things that we actually haven't really touched upon before. And... yeah, maybe, it's gonna be quite curious. So, Lenny, tell me more about your confidence growing up.
Yeah, we're going like
Straight into
the
it.
personal. Oh God, well, okay. I would say that just like for many people, like if I look back at old videos, I was very confident as a child, and I think this is something that you see a lot where people used to be very confident as children. Like as a toddler, I don't know if there's anyone with more confidence than like a toddler running around, exploring the world. And so I don't know, I don't really know when exactly I became kind of aware of my confidence for the first time, but I feel like, primary school, you start, maybe even kindergarten, but like you start becoming aware of the norms, right? And like this is what is accepted and this is what is not accepted. This is, the type of behavior that people react positively to, and this is the type of behavior that people don't react positively to. They react maybe even negatively to it. And I think sometime throughout like school and like teenage years, obviously, confidence kind of went like kind of down. And then I think, there've been moments where, I gained a lot of confidence right after school as well. And I was very like, kind of, finding back to myself and, being very comfortable in my own skin. And just being very happy. And then the work started in a sense. I feel like, throughout my studies, like I kind of maintained that confidence as well, but I feel like the first time I entered the working world, this is when, it was a new situation where I really had to get used to it.
Yeah.
And new challenges are being thrown at you, and you need to find confidence within an area where you are a beginner, right? Because as a newcomer, when you just start your journey as a working person, you don't know everything. Maybe you will never know everything, but you don't have a lot of experience. And I feel like oftentimes, when you are somewhere where you lack experience or you don't know a lot about it just yet, this is sometimes where, you might not feel just as confident. And then kind of working through these challenges and, finding back to your confidence. I don't know. So, this is kind of the ups and downs, the journeys, it's all been there.
Yeah.
A part of, the last almost 30 years now. What about you?
Well, my confidence journey was quite similar. I think I actually had a lot of confidence until I was in my master's, actually.
Really? Okay. So, teenage years.
Teenage years were a bit
whatever.
low. Teenage years, but I feel like teenage years is low for everybody.
I think that's just kind of
like
normal.
that's just natural.
Like everyone has that, hey?
I did have, like self-doubts and everything, but it wasn't like to the point where it really affected my beliefs about myself. Like I still thought I'm good enough, I mean, of course, you had like, for instance, rejections and, first love and all of that. And like that things, of course, like they hurt sometimes, but they didn't hurt me enough to bash me down.
Do you feel like your confidence was lower?
Exactly. My master's did, though. My master's did. And it was quite interesting because it was about being surrounded by people who were very judgmental and people who I thought that we vibed with, but we actually didn't. And that is just crazy to me, how much your close circle influences how you see yourself. Because if you receive, for instance, judgment on your choices that have nothing to do with them, it can even be like simple stuff like, oh, you're wearing red lips today, or it's like, why would you do that? It's not a special day, so like these small
so
like
bad,
exactly like these small judgmental things that or like, oh my god, you're not a vegetarian, ew, so like these kind of things were they really, and these are small things, but it also kind of went as well into the performance aspect, you know, like how you said, like the work aspect, like
Yeah.
how do you perform, you know, and that also kind of, you know, I didn't feel like I fit in that environment. And then instead of asking myself, what environment would I fit in? I asked myself, why don't I fit in this environment?
So
You
yeah,
know, like the question
yeah,
wasn't
I see
about
what
how
you're
do
saying,
I
yeah.
find an environment that fits me. It was more about what is wrong with me that I don't fit in here.
That's
You know?
such a big one, man. That is such a big one. It's like this default of trying to find the fault
Yeah, exactly.
within you
Exactly.
instead of maybe there's just not a good fit.
Exactly. And it also makes me think about, you know, this whole idea that, you know, you have to wear your clothes, you know, like your clothes don't have to wear you. So
Yeah.
like wear what makes you feel confident. And it's the same.
Yeah.
Go into environments that fit you. You don't have to adapt to fit to a certain environment if that's just a clash. So yeah, my master's was where I first encountered imposter syndrome in my life. Yeah. And I mean, I was wise enough, or life was wise enough to teach me to get rid of those people from my life and keep the ones that are authentic and the ones that, you know, see me for who I am and support me for who I am. That without just saying that, you know, sure, there's things that I still have to improve, you know, and would still want to learn, but it's not about judging who I am as a person and my choices just because their choice is different.
And like making you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah.
Where it's not necessary.
Yeah, and making you feel smaller as well. That is like, oh yeah, what you're doing is wrong. Like, why would you do that? You know? So yeah, that was my first. I went on a date with imposter syndrome, basically.
On
That
a
was-
date with
That was my first experience with it.
was it a flop date?
Definitely. Do not recommend.
Not a second date.
But it creeps in. It's a stalker. This imposter syndrome is a stalker, I have to say.
It really is.
Like, it's gonna come out in situations where, like, I thought we were done. What are you doing here? But yeah.
So how did you deal with that imposter syndrome? Because as you said, it creeps in. It's not always clear. Like it seems almost like all of a sudden it's there.
Yeah.
And then how did you go through this whole thing of like realizing that this is imposter syndrome and then deciding, okay, this is how I can deal with it and get rid of it?
I think my first signal was just having a very bad aftertaste after a conversation. When you know when you have a conversation with somebody and you're just like,
And you're
What was
like,
that?
this doesn't feel right.
this doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel like it, and it's not necessarily about like gaining something from a conversation, but just the conversation feeling good and feeling relatable and feeling, you know, that you vibe together with that person. And especially when it comes with pressure on top, like, oh, but why would you do these things? Or like, oh, you still haven't done that? I've done all of this stuff, you know? And like, oh yeah, but like we're so passionate about these and these things, and I would just look at them and be like, okay, I there is no point of connection here, you know, zero. And but then you do feel the pressure, you know, the pressure to fit in, the pressure that maybe you're not as good as you thought you were. Maybe all of these people who have big mouths and, you know, and like I'm an introvert, you know, I enjoy talking on the pod, you know, because this is cozy, but like I don't like going around and showing off how amazing I am. And that like that's something that I would like to learn more in terms of, you know, being able to present myself, you know, like present my my skills a bit better. But yeah, I don't know. Like when it comes to, you know, seeing all of these people, you know, who are very good at just being out there, and you just sit there and you're like, what is wrong with me here? You know, like what is it? So yeah, the aftertaste and the fact that I started asking myself, what is wrong with me? And just asking that question, I feel like was, you know, indicative of the fact that, first of all, I should not be asking myself this question because there is nothing wrong with me. And second of all, why am I asking myself this question?
Yeah.
What about you? Like how
Yeah.
like did you ever experience imposter syndrome?
Of
And like
course.
how
Of
was it for
course.
you?
Of course. Imposter syndrome definitely like within the work context. Of course, I've experienced that, and there are moments where sometimes I still experience it, but it's kind of similar for me. I think it's a lot about where I feel like no matter what I do is not good enough. This is like when I'm like, oh, okay, this is imposter syndrome going on, and just honestly for me it was different things that helped me kind of keep the imposter syndrome in check, in the sense of when I realize that this is the kind of thoughts that I'm having and this is the way I talk to myself, I'm like, okay, this is imposter syndrome. So like naming it, really naming it. This is what's going on. This is not reality. It is not facts. This is just imposter syndrome going on now. And I think for me, it was a combination of things. On the one hand, it helped me a lot to talk to people about it, not necessarily being like, oh yeah, I feel like an imposter. How do you feel? Not necessarily that, but just the more conversations you have and the more meaningful and deep conversations you have with others, you realize that even the people who are that you admire, even the people you admire, sometimes have moments where they feel like imposters. And that was really eye-opening to me because I'm like, okay, I'm sitting here. Maybe I'm like, I just started working and I just started my career. So there's not much, I'm at the start of my career. And I look at these people that I admire and where I'm like, wow, they seem so confident and they're so competent and you like them and they're like kind of really cool people too. And then there's sometimes moments when you talk to them where they might actually show a little bit of vulnerability and be like, yeah, I also sometimes, feel like not confident or I feel like an imposter. And that really changed the way I see it, in the sense of it is a normal feeling that we have sometimes. And the important thing is to just not let it kind of keep us from doing what we want to do and not take it as reality. So for me, it's a lot of like kind of cognitive strategies, in the sense of, okay, let's come back to reality. What does this actually mean? And that's just some self-doubt.
You know what it reminds
working.
me of? The fact that we tend to mistake confidence with, this ability to like look good and talk to people all the time and just be, like in your most powerful self in that sense. But we really forget that confidence lies in the ability to also be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that is true confidence. When you are so okay with who you are and with your journey and, with your decisions, that you are not afraid to show vulnerability. And I think that for example, as a mentor, if someone is able to do that and show, people like, hey, I didn't always feel, the ability, like I didn't always have the ability to talk to people. Like I really felt imposter syndrome in the beginning, and I still feel it sometimes. And you look up to these people and they are vulnerable about these things. That makes us so human and so authentic and so connected in ways that, just like showing off with different things would never do.
I think this is so interesting because just thinking about what I used to think confidence was very much the stereotypical being very loud and very present and, being always the first one to talk and dominating a conversation. And with time, I've just realized that, I don't think that is necessarily confidence. And confidence really is. So I like this idea of, it's called quiet confidence, right? And I really, really do like that. And it's like, if I think about now, like, okay, if I could choose how my confidence would look like, it would really be that idea of like quiet confidence, because it's really about just having this very strong belief in yourself and the belief in that you are okay the way you are, and without depending on external validation. And I think this is what it is, right? Confidence is being who you truly are, being authentic.
Yeah.
And as an introvert, it isn't necessarily authentic to, I don't know, be always
Yeah.
wanting to be, in the spotlight. It can also be part of it. It's not saying that if you're an introvert, you shouldn't want this, right? It's not that. It's just like really listening within yourself and asking yourself, who am I authentically? And focusing on that. And then also, being okay, even if this means that some people will not like you or then will not like what you have to say. But like this true confidence in your authentic self and being okay with that and being okay with people not liking you.
I love that.
I like that way more than this is what confidence looks like.
I love
And
the
it's just this one
authenticity
idea.
part of it. Like, I have to say, for me, it's really about understanding, where my confidence comes from is really thinking about who can I be authentic with? Like, which people around me allow me to be my most authentic self without me having to put filters on, without me having to monitor what I'm saying, without me overthinking what I'm saying, without me having to make sure that I was heard, you know? And I feel like a lot of the confidence then also comes from relationships, So like if you have the core people around you, that the support system, where with whom you can be truly authentic, you can be truly yourself, you can be confident in who you are and in your value. I feel like that also gives you the strength to portray this confidence to the outer world as well in a way that is authentic to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like if you think about how you are with the people you feel the most comfortable with, I feel like this is where the real you comes out.
Yeah. But I mean, we cannot avoid criticism in our lives, unfortunately.
Imagine we could.
That would be cool, but we can't. So, what do you do when you, receive criticism?
You know what? Okay. I would say, for me, it makes a very big difference if it's actually constructive criticism or if it is unnecessarily being negative. And I have experienced it both ways. I'm very open to constructive criticism. I'm very responsive to that because I am a person, I know I'm not perfect. And I am very interested in developing myself further on a personal and professional level, right? I do want that for myself as well. So when it comes to criticism, it is fine. What I can't really deal with that well is when criticism becomes personal and almost like an attack. Right?
Like a passive aggressive. So the tone here matters as well.
I think the tone, the intent behind it, because I think that criticism is incredibly valuable when it is constructive, but it can only be constructive when the intent is to provide constructive criticism, right? And not just dump your opinion.
Yeah.
Where maybe your opinion isn't
or project whatever
asked for. Or project
whatever
your own
ego was threatened about.
Exactly. So for me personally, these are two different things. Now, I will also say it's quite interesting. I think there are differences maybe in mentality or like maybe also cultural differences, but there are some cultures where there is a lot of positive feedback and some cultures where, if everything is fine, then I'm just not going to say anything.
Are you
and I will
talking
not
about
give you
cultures
positive
in general or work culture specifically?
Honestly, probably both. Probably both. This is also an interesting thing, right? Because I think we talk a lot about criticism and like negative feedback, but there's also the positive feedback. And I think, again, it's like, it can be so helpful to also know what someone else is appreciating about you and appreciating about your work. It is so valuable. And at the same time, there have been moments where I got very positive feedback only to find out later that, well, that was just some fluff, right? It wasn't really, that way it wasn't real.
Yes,
And
I have that so many
don't
times
like
piss me
that.
off.
It's like, as long as you're like honest and have good intent, I can deal with whatever feedback you will give me, positive or negative. I'll
Yeah.
be receptive.
I feel like sometimes people give positive feedback just to tick it off, and they
Yeah.
say like general stuff.
Yeah.
And they're just gonna say it just for it to like be there. It's like, oh, you did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But this is like what you did wrong, this is what you didn't, da, da, da,
Yeah.
So it's not really kind of showing you, okay, this is specifically what I did well.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
general stuff. Oh, you did a fantastic job.
Yeah. But
How
this,
about-
this,
yeah,
this, and
yeah,
this
yeah. And
wasn't
then,
great.
of course, you're going to focus on the specifics. It doesn't matter that you
Yeah.
just told me I did a fantastic job, because that's a general statement. The sun does a
Yeah.
fantastic job rising up, But the sun also does a fantastic job giving me vitamin D. The sun also does a fantastic job improving my mood. These
Yeah.
are specifics, you
Yeah.
know?
No, that is so true.
And
That
then
is
when
so
it comes
true.
to negative feedback, it's just very specific. And I feel like that's why it also makes us dwell on it much more.
Yeah.
Because there's something pinpointed exactly. you
Yeah.
know?
It's like, it's quite interesting because I feel like sometimes the expectation is that, well, if I don't say anything bad, like obviously you, I don't know, can assume that everything is fine, but no one waits for you to assume that something is not fine. Like they still feel it's necessary to point out specifically what didn't go well. Then why not specifically
Exactly.
point out also what went well? Because you can't always assume. And this is, I think, also, it kind of goes back to confidence of like, different people have different confidence levels. And some people need more clear communication of this and this went well.
No, for sure. I completely agree. And like, when thinking about, the fact that confidence is a journey, and the fact that people have different levels of confidence, and the fact that on different days we will have different levels of confidence, and that's okay. We don't have to be our most amazing selves every day, because our most amazing selves look different every day, and that is okay. So I feel like confidence is something that is cultivated daily. It's like a habit of the mind,
Yeah, that is so
like
true,
how
yeah.
do you show up for yourself as a confident person, whatever that confidence looks like, and whatever level of confidence you can afford on that day, because sometimes I really
Sometimes you
can't
just have a
afford
bad
a lot
day.
of confidence, Exactly. Sometimes you just have a bad day. So let's dive into the confidence habits.
Honestly, I think the word habit just really describes it, because a habit is something that you do daily. And when you do something daily, it means you gain exposure. And for
Yeah.
me, the biggest insights of my confidence journey is you need to do it scared. Don't wait to be confident to do something, because confidence comes with action. But even more so is just the power of exposure. And I think that, so I used to not have social media before we started the Happy 9 to 5. I was not on Instagram. I think I was on Facebook, to keep on touch, but I was not active on social media whatsoever. It was just not my thing. I didn't see the point back then, blah, 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 blah. All of that. And then starting to film was so cringy
Yeah.
at the start. And sometimes I still cringe. But you know what was like the biggest test? Filming myself or taking pictures of myself in public. And this was like the biggest test, like confidence test of the past years for myself. And like learning to be okay with people looking at you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you had that as well,
Yeah.
where it's like, we have experienced it together as well. The amount of times people stare,
The bombastic side eye.
the side eyes,
Yes.
the comments in front of you and behind your back, the
The denigration as well.
I don't know,
I
the
would say,
laughs, it's also just how people
Perceive content creation.
content
Yeah.
creation. And many people do perceive content creation as cringy, and it's having. But you know what? It gets better. It gets easier with time. It really does get easier
I
with
feel
time.
like, the people who actually cringe about that says more about them than about the people
Exactly.
who are actually creating the
Exactly.
content.
Exactly. And I think this is also one of the learnings where it's like, who do you allow to bash down your confidence? And does their opinion actually matter?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Who cares what a random person who walks past me while I'm taking a picture or I'm filming, who cares what they think?
Yeah.
And I think this is, just doing it. Just doing it and really being like, does it really matter what they think?
Yeah, I love that.
What about you?
think action definitely is a biggie. Like action before thought, you know, because with confidence, you know, you can allow these like bad voices to like creep in and just tell you, you know, yeah, but that was not good, but you know, like, and then, you know, the overthinking goes on, and then, yeah, then you're done. But I also feel like for me, what helped me a lot is to mirror myself and to like what I see. Because it is, and that can be done.
How do
with-
you do that?
For instance, I, you know, take photos. I enjoy dressing up and, you know, checking myself out in the mirror because I enjoy what I see. And sometimes I think of myself as not me, so I kind of like dissociate a little bit. And I just look at this person, I'm like, I like this person.
Oh,
This
is
is
so
a nice person.
Yeah.
And like just kind of taking yourself out of yourself in a way, like taking yourself out of who you are and looking at yourself from the side, you know, and seeing the good things. And that's an effort in the beginning, especially if you're wired to only see, oh yeah, but like, you know, I don't know, like I have belly fat or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Like these things. Of course, you know, like, but we have to rewire our brains to see the good stuff. So I would name things that I like. You know, I like my earrings that day. Oh, I really like, you know, the makeup that I had on. Or I don't know. Or maybe I remember something that I said to a person that made them feel a certain way. Like they made them feel, you know, maybe confident. Or, you know, I showed empathy to somebody else. And that I would think of myself, that was nice, you know. So like actually making the effort to pinpoint the good. Because
Be your own cheerleader.
pinpointing the bad, we can all do very well. Pinpointing the good,
Yeah.
not so much. And the specific stuff, not
Yeah.
just a fantastic job.
I love that. All right, you guys. So we hope that, yeah, this chat inspired you to reflect about your own confidence journey and ask yourself what your confidence milestones have been the past few years and appreciate just how far you have come. And maybe there were also a few tips here and there that, you know, will help you to basically accelerate your confidence journey as well and improve the relationship that you have with yourself, because really that is the most important relationship that we will ever have. And making sure that, you know, we boost our confidence can make such a big difference in every area of our lives.
And if you've been enjoying this episode, support our Friday coffee chats by buying us a coffee. You can find the link in the episode description. And don't forget to send this episode to a friend who wants to accelerate their confidence journey.
And we can't wait to chat with you next week.
Bye!